Okay, so here is the example that we did not quite have time to get to in class. I'm going to do my best to be pretty clear in explaining this, but please, 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 if you are stuck on this example, but if you are having issues with this, if you're not quite following what I'm doing, please just come see me in AL, and I'm happy to talk you through this one and any like this in your homework. So what we are going to do in this example, you can see that you have 3 equations, and all 3 of those equations have all 3 variables that we are looking for: x, y, and z. Okay, so this is a little bit more complicated than the other one we did together in class at the end. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to take the first 2 equations and kind of group those together, and then we're going to take the middle and the last equation and group those together. Now, what we have to do is we have to figure out, and I'm going to make my x's drop out. So in these first 2 equations, I'm looking at how I can get my x's to drop out. If we multiply that middle equation by a -2, then when I add straight down, my x's will drop out. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just rewrite that first equation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this -2 through this middle equation, and that's what I'm going to write down here. So when I distribute that, it gives me -4x plus 6y minus 10z equals +14. And then we are going to add, and those x terms drop out. I'm still going to add everything else left over. That gives me 8y, minus 7z is what that should say, minus 7z equals 26. Okay, I'm going to leave that for just a minute. And then we are going to do the exact same thing now with our second and our third equations. So again, I'm just going to start off by trying to get those x's to drop out. So this time, if I multiply that second equation by a -3 and distribute that, then I'll get my x's to drop out. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, distribute a -3 now through this second equation, and that's what I'm going to be writing over here. So when we do that, I have -6x plus 9y minus 15z equals 21. And then all I'm going to do is bring that last equation straight over. I'm not changing it at all. I'm just rewriting it underneath. Now I'm going, again, add straight down. Those x's drop out again. I get 8y minus 11z equals 18. Now, what we are going to do from here, at this point, what we've created is a regular old system with 2 equations over here and 2 variables to solve for. So at this point, we're kind of back to doing some things that we know how to do. So I'm going to take this equation and this equation, write them as a system, just basically rewriting them so they're right on top of each other. And then I'm going to work these 2 equations as their own system. So again, trying to get something to drop out. If we change all of the signs of the top equation, when I add, now those y terms drop out, and I'm left with -4z equals -8. And then we can divide both sides by -4 to get z equals 2. Okay, so all that work, we ended up with just one of our 3 equations that, or one of our 3 variables that we need. What I can do from there then is use this value of z, and I can go back to one of these two equations that just have a y and a z in it. So let's go back to this one, and we're going to plug in our value of z, which is 2. So that gives me 8y minus 22 equals 18, and then we can add and solve from there. So this is going to be 8y equals 40, so y equals 5. Okay, very last thing now. Now I have y and z, so I can take those values, go back to any of those 3 original equations, plug in our value for y, plug in our value for z. That's going to let me solve for x. So let me change colors again so you can kind of follow here. So taking 2, taking 5, I'm going to just choose that first equation and plug in. So 4x plus 2 times 5 plus 3 times 2 equals 12. And then we're just going to simplify and solve. 4x plus 10 plus 6 equals 12. So I'm going to subtract both the 10 and the 6. That actually leaves me with a negative 4. So then x is negative 1. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, this is so messy. Last thing, just take all of our values, plug them in. X is negative 1, y is 5, z is 2.